was born in Joteca, El Salvador in 1980, and entered family during the very big peak of conflict, and I was taken at 16 months old. As my mother recalls, I was playing on a hammock, and the military man came and forcefully took me away from my parents. I think from birth we begin to discover our worlds, but sometimes there are walls that can block out the light that allows us to see clearly how I got here, how did I come to be. And I'm a firm believer that we pass through certain stages of development in the course of our lives. I feel people experience a certain amount of safety and security knowing their histories. This is the idea that, knowing who your biological parents are is so important. I think for all of us, there are pieces of our lives that are missing. For me, I didn't know any of my information up until a couple of months ago, and it's been so incredible, all the events of this past year for me. And I think for all of us, we once had a home somewhere, we had a family, and we've kind of lost that, and we're trying to get that back. But throughout all this, I try to keep in mind that I've also gained a family. And so I guess for me right now, I'm struggling to get more answers. There are a lot of emotions that I went through being somebody in a transracial adoption, finding out that you're adopted, but then never really knowing about your history, kind of feeling ashamed, doubting that people were really there caring, that they weren't going to leave you, and a little bit of anger, resentment, sometimes pretending. People ask, where did you come from? And I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, and so I used to say, oh, I'm Black Irish, because that was when the Spanish and the Irish came together. And so I just kind of joke about it, because I didn't know. So, and then I got to the point where I just felt like it was really hard for me to talk about everything. So I just tried to kind of ignore my feelings that I really needed to know. But there were always those triggers that when they saw them, that I would realize all over again that it was something that was really important to me. For me, it ended up being school that was my safe place to be curious and to learn about my history. As I continued into the graduate school of social work at Salem State, I learned a lot about issues of human rights, which made it pretty impossible for me to ignore my hidden desire to know. And I guess for me, my first step was to seek out help. And as Rob can tell you, I came to his office one day and I said, Rob, I really need to know where I came from. And it just so happened he was running a trip to El Salvador, and so I just had to make that decision that it was about me and no one else. And the only thing I had to do was sign up to travel there. The first time I went as a tourist, just to get an idea of what El Salvador was like. And as Susanna said, it was a humanitarian trip, and we worked very closely with another organization in El Salvador with for rural health, and it was really an amazing trip. And just at the tail end of it, I ended up meeting an investigator from Peluskita, and he asked me some questions and anything that I knew about my history at all. And so I was only able to give him a very limited amount of information, but anything I had, I handed it over to him, and I said, good luck. And that began the search. That was March of 2006, and it seemed like in a very short time somebody had gotten in contact with me and said, we think we might have a lead or an idea of we're going to start looking for your family, and it just seemed to all come together. And a couple months later, I got an email. They said, guess what? Your family's alive. Both of your parents are alive and they're doing well. You have 6 sisters, 2 brothers, 3 half-sisters, 25 nieces and nephews, a few aunts and other relatives. And I fell off my chair. It was unbelievable. And so I guess, by talking with the contacts over there, like Kara Lyons and everybody, I just slowly tried to piece together some of my history. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly that I was learning. I mean, there are parts of my story that when I tell the people about it or they read about it, they have tears in their eyes. And for me, I think about what it must have felt like to be my parents in El Salvador, who had their baby forcefully taken away from them in the midst of a war. 2 individuals that seemingly felt so helpless, emotionally drained, physically exhausted of all resources, even the ability to feel like they had a choice to say no. When I met my parents this past April in 2007 in El Salvador, the first words that they said to me were, "Please forgive us." And for me, this means they must have felt responsible for probably about 23, 24 years about my abduction. And what do you say to this? For me, I just tried not to cry too much, but more focus on the fact that I was happy and glad to be there with them. I guess my only regrets out of all of this were that I didn't look sooner, but I'm glad that I found them. And that I wasn't feeling better when I was with them. It's tough being out of your own, a fish out of water, as they say. But I tried to adjust the best that I could, and it really helped that I had so much support from Pro Busquera and my friends and family, and I just tried to, make the best of everything. And I guess there's still a lot of questions for me. It seemed like it would be a long trip, but it ended up feeling really like a short amount of time that I was there, and I'd love to go back. And actually this November, I'm going to be expecting a baby, and actually in July I just got married, so I've had a lot of things going on. And so now it means a lot to me that I'll be able to share this with my new child, and that I can begin to try and take back as much of my life, of what I can, that was stolen from me.